Hey everyone, I'm Jeff Whelan, the host of the WB Download, and I want to invite you and welcome you to our podcast. My brother and I own and operate Whelan Builders. It's a custom home building company here in Southwest Ohio. The WB Download mostly focuses on interviewing folks associated with custom building. We stray now and then to interview people who I think are interesting and to break up the monotony of the same old podcast. I also like to highlight things that are going on in my everyday life along with our businesses. I started this podcast to help people understand the custom builder world, but to also give people a chance to hear what others have to say and highlight their expertise and experiences in life. We drop on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month with a new topic and or guest each time. I hope you join us here on the WB Download and enjoy listening and hearing stories of people in and out of the custom builder world. Welcome to the WB Download. Hey, welcome everybody to the WB Download. I'm Jeff Whelan, president of Whelan Builders here with you on the WB Download. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd. Thanks for tuning in, and I just want to jump right into it. I'm gonna make this intro a little bit short because my friend Andy, who we interviewed here for today, he's got a lengthy interview, but it was fun. It was really cool to listen to him talk about this. So just a couple things to point out and to touch base on. Number one, we want to wish Eric Hessel a happy birthday and also wish Leanne Matthews a happy birthday. Make sure that if you guys see them, their birthday was last week and we celebrated and it was fun. And we celebrate everybody's birthday around here. So happy birthday to you guys. So we've got a lot of stuff going on here and some details that I don't even want to talk about, but there's a lot of building going on here at Whelan Builders, and there's a lot of people coming to us for different reasons. And we have this conversation a lot, that our goal in life is to build as few houses as possible within the realm that we've created for the year, to make sure that we're giving our customers and our houses the attention they deserve. But there's people who are coming to us with specific distress problems, whether it's something going on with a previous builder, something going on with a fire, or something going on somewhere that they specifically need our help. And we've just been really weighing on how to be able to make this happen. And of course, we're going to, because we are made of hardworking individuals and we can do all kinds of things. So we're going to work through it, and I'm going to keep you posted on all this stuff that's happening because it's a lot, but we're going to be able to do it and help some people out. And I'm proud of our team for to be able to do so. I feel like I'm talking like on Facebook or something like that in order to get you to ask questions, which is stupid, but hey, we're going to be busy. I want to talk about what's going on today. We are interviewing my friend Andy Korb, and Andy is a guy that you'll hear me say I know him because number one, his dad was the FFA teacher down in Ross who took over as I graduated, and Mr. Imes, my FFA teacher, had retired, and his dad Jeff took over and was there for a long time. So then, being around the Butler County Fair, and Andy's an auctioneer, he would do some sales up there, and then he knows a lot of the same people that I know. And just over time, we got to talking. So most recently, he owns a company called Stockyards Packing Company, which is up in Oxford, right outside of Miami University in College Corner. And that's where we take our cattle to be butchered. And they do an incredible job. And what does that mean? Well, that means that they understand and they know what they're doing. You're going to hear us talk about a couple different details in between all the stories and different things that we're going to say today. But they do a really good job by just paying attention, being experts at what they do. They shrink wrap instead of paper wrap. They understand how to cut the beef. They take care of the cattle when they get there, when they arrive, and throughout the entire process. All of these things are really important. But the one thing that gets me with Andy is he reminds me of what I take a lot of pride in from being from Ross, from the West Side, is he reminds me of a lot of the way we are, the way Mike and I are, and the way we work. And when you get done work, you work some more, and you always are straight up about things, and you just got to be able to work like crazy for all your life, and that's what Andy does. But when we we were there. Cody and I were at the Stockyards a couple of weeks ago, and Dr. Garcia was there from Ohio State University, and we did a carcass competition with Andy, and I talked about it a little bit on this podcast back then. But to listen to him and Dr. Garcia go back and forth about the reasons why beef is graded the way it is, the specific cuts that you look at and the reasons why you're looking at it, the care in the facility, the cleanliness of the facility, the process in the facility, and meeting all of his staff that is there at the facility on how they take care of different things is so important. And so I really got a kick out of it. But then I started talking to him some more, different times, different things, and realizing what a neat person he is to listen to and talk to, because he's done just a lot of everything. A lot like me. I spent a lot of time on the road when I was in college doing different things, and I think he was doing the same thing. So he's got a lot of stories and different character going to be on the show today than what we're used to hearing on a WB Download, and I love it. And I just want to say thanks to Andy for all of his hard work, for all the good things he does, for being a good person, and for being a good time and a great storyteller. So, hey, without further ado, this has nothing to do with building houses, Ben Fry. So if you don't want to listen, don't listen. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a good interview to listen to and learn a number of different things that I find neat in my life. So here he is, without further ado, Andy Korb. All right, like I said, here today we have none other than Andy Korb, and we know this dude is good people because he's from out on the west side of town, almost Indiana. Are you Indiana?
No,
You're close.
Well, we are. So I grew up in Indiana.
Okay, that's what I thought. I knew you were right there.
Well, and mom and dad both worked in Ohio. We were involved in the 4-H association in Ohio, but as far as schooling was concerned, now we were right across the state line. I mean, we were a stone's throw away. But it was kind of ironic that, as I got older and matured into the later part of, high school, I wanted to go back to Ohio. And my family was originally from that. And so that's just kind of my natural progression. As we kind of moved through that piece, that I ended up going to Purdue for a year. I never gave it a chance. I hated that place with a passion. Dad was like, you have to go to Purdue. It's in-state tuition. And so at the end of that first year, I was like, I'm not going back. I'm done. I'm not going back. And so that kind of is what, got me started I worked in construction for a year and then lived at my grandparents' house. And that got me my in-state tuition when I went then to Ohio State.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that really shaped my path, especially the year that I came home and kind of sat out of school. Because in Ohio, if you want in-state tuition, you have to sit out for an entire year. And they have some of the most astronomical deals, but you can't receive any money from outside of the state, like birthday gifts, nothing. I'm like, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah. So what year did you graduate from Ohio State?
I actually never graduated from Ohio State.
What years were you there?
So I graduated from high school in 2002.
Okay.
And then I went into Purdue, and then I transferred into Ohio State after that. So I've always been one that, why take the traditional path? It could be easier. Let's not do that. Let's just go beat our head against the wall for a while and, let's chart our own path and we're going to make this deal on our own. So dumb.
So let's talk about this. You're an auctioneer, a farmer, a dad, a butcher, a concrete finisher, husband, hardworking cat.
I've done it all, dude.
Something I've known about you for a while. Since I've known about you, we're not
hustler. I like that word better.
You're a hustler. You're a hustler. You got to be careful with that one.
Well, not that side. In the good way. You're going to get out and you're going to grind. How about I'm a grinder? No, maybe.
You're a grinder, not on grinder.
Yeah, no, let's not. Yeah, let's say. Hey, you want to rewind that and cut that back out?
5 minutes into it, we've already gone sideways. So I'll tell people the way that I knew or I met you was your dad was the FFA teacher in Ross who took over for Mr. Imes. Mr. Imes left when we did. We graduated in 93. And that
by
was
we as in you.
By me.
Yeah, you're a lot older than I am.
I keep thinking like this whole group of people that you can't see.
Yeah, right. I'm just making sure that, everybody knows that we are not the same age.
So Mr. Imes was there for a long time. And one of the things that amazed me about your dad is that usually the person who immediately follows somebody who's been in a program for a long time
it's terrible.
fails.
Yeah.
And he made a huge success out of it. I mean, he was there for how long? 20-something years.
I was 30-something.
Was it 30-something years? I'm older than I think I am.
Yeah.
I was 30-something
I
years.
wasn't
He
going to
was
say
there.
it, Jeff.
He retired from the position, but then, you know, I just knew you from being around the Butler County Fair, being around different places, and obviously, you know, you're an interesting cat, and we got to know each other a little bit. So tell me a little bit more. You talked about growing up over there on the state line. Tell me about your family and like, you know, what high school did you go to? You kind of gave us a little bit of a background about going to Purdue and Ohio State. What's some of those memories you got there?
Well, I had a very non-traditional, I guess, youth. The one thing that was really unique to us was that, you know, when you live in a community, you tend to do everything in that community. And we really weren't that way. And, you know, my sisters, they kind of bought into the whole Brookville, Franklin County, Indiana community probably more than I did. But I was the oldest one, too. And that kind of hinders you a little bit in that regard. So, you know, as we were going through, I'm a straight up ag kid. You know, that was me 100% all the way down the road. And the one unique thing about it is when you're in the 4-H program, that was something that I was extremely passionate about through 4-H, through FFA. That was my jam, man. And so when I was kind of really pushing into that, I tended to assimilate a lot more into the Butler County, Ohio portion of it, primarily because I had my start in the 4-H program in Butler County. And, you know, we started from the standpoint of schooling and sports at high school, but the sports piece was still over on the Ohio side because we live so close to the state line that, you know, it's just so easy to go back and forth. And the same thing happens with, you know, we went into the slaughterhouse. You know, we're so close to the state line that I kind of had to set everything up to be able to handle, you know, kind of both of those deals. So, you know, as things kept progressing and we, you know, pushed along a little further, you know, I've always been a little bit of a nerd, and I'm one of those guys that I've got a real thirst for knowledge on things that I don't know about. And, you know, it drives me to find out, you know, what is it that you don't know and why does it work that way? I used to tear stuff apart all the time. Oh, it would drive Dad insane. I mean, I love my dad to death, and he'll tell you straight up, he's not the most mechanical guy, but, you know, his jam was the ag classroom. And so ag education, man, that was his thing. And so we're very similar in some regards, but we're very different than others. And, you know, I'm one of those that you give me a welder, I'll fix anything. And, you know, I want to tear it down. I want to see how it works. I want to see how things function. And Dad's a lot more on the other side of the education piece and the academia side of things. And, you know, educating people on this is why things happen and giving them the opportunity to see the knowledge piece. So I'm one that's just going to tear it apart and figure it out.
Yeah.
And I take after my uncle a lot more in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, I think I talked to our neighbor, and he does the crops on our property anyway. And he's an unbelievable mechanic. And I'm like, well, where'd you learn that? And he goes, learned it right there in the shop.
Right.
You know,
they call it the school of hard knocks.
Tearing stuff apart and fixing it and putting it back together.
How is that? We can't afford to call that guy because we are broke.
Right. There's nobody. I tell my kids that all the time. There's nobody that comes out and fixes the water. There's nobody that comes out and fixes the gates. There's nobody that comes out and fixes all that stuff. You got, and you can't sit there and say I can't do it, because you don't do it, you ain't gonna get it done. So you got to figure it out right away. So did you guys grow up farming over there? What did you have, a mini farm? Did you? I can't remember what it was. You had animals there, right?
Well, yeah, kind of. I love my grandfather to death, but he was one that, you know, didn't always have the most focus on being profitable on the farm, but he was the first generation to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so he didn't know what he didn't know. And so he worked a job in town, and he actually worked for Cincinnati Bell for 30, 40 years and, you know, did a phenomenal job raising 8 kids. There was nobody on the face of this earth that could ever say anything ill about my grandpa. But, you know, that was something that I've had to be careful as I've gotten older of, yeah, I need to be as kind-hearted and give of myself to other people as much as possible, but I still got to try to be profitable in this deal. And, you know, back in the 60s and 70s and maybe even, well, I'd say not the early 80s, but 60s and 70s, you could make money farming. And, And he did that. I mean, he paid for the farm out there outside of Riley. They raised some hogs. They row cropped a little bit, and they could make money.
Yeah.
It isn't like it is now to where if you don't sharpen your pencil to the absolute nth degree, even at that point, you don't know if it's actually going to pan out.
Yeah.
And everything is so much more expensive. You know, they talked about the other day, you know, corn's at $3.80, $3.90 a bushel right now. And it was $100 an acre in 1970. Well, that was what corn was worth then too. You know, now it's $1,000 an acre for an input cost. So, you know, in that regard, you know, it's almost an inverse situation.
Yeah. They talk the same thing about the dairy business and
terrible.
The chicken business. I mean, it's all you look at the difference in the prices, and it's not that big of a difference in price. You know, everybody wants to still buy a gallon of milk for $2, but nobody wants to be a dairy farmer anymore.
Right?
It's so expensive.
Back to the whole: do I want to beat my head against the wall?
So I mean, the 4-H piece is so big, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about it. But I mean, it's near and dear to your heart. It's obviously the same thing with me. I got that from just loving animals and growing up out there, but also having that opportunity to go to high school and have the FFA in my high school, not at the career center, not at the Russell Lee, but in the high school. And me and my buddies, you know, guy came over and talked to us when we were in the 8th grade, which we were at a different school. And there was a group of them came over and said, hey, this is something that the FFA does. Would you guys want to join? And thankfully, there was more than one of us that said, yeah, I think it sounds cool, whether we knew what it was or not. But we all joined it, and we all learned more about real life in that class than anything. But we also had the opportunity to show animals at the fair, which puts you in a whole different nervous category. You know, it racks your nerves and does different things, teaches you different responsibilities. But I think I see that a lot in my kids today, pushing. I don't even want to push them to do it. Just to wet
give them exposure.
Yeah, just give them exposure to it and to see what they do with it.
Well, and you know, I'm kind of a product of that. And you know, you had asked about did we grow up on a farm? Yeah, ish, kind of. You know, Grandma and Grandpa, they had the farm.
Yeah.
And so, but there was 8 kids.
Yeah.
And Dad had tried raising hogs in the 80s. Oh, that was an absolute travesty. And there were so many people that lost so much money, and it was just the hog deal in the 80s was a bad situation. And so, you know, it was I'm not going to compare it to the stock market crash from, you know, the early 1900s, but it was very similar to that. You know, people lost everything.
Yeah.
And so, and my parents were lucky enough to skate out of it. Barely, but they got out. And so after that happened, that's when Dad tended to kind of gravitate more in the industry. He was a feed salesman for quite a few years, and then worked for a wastewater treatment facility on the agricultural application side of things. And then that's when his segue was into the ag deal and started teaching ag. And so, you know, Dad and I kind of do our own thing. We, you know, the rest of the family, they have their deal and we have ours. And, you know, and it's not good. It's not bad. It's just, you know, that's kind of the way things materialize. Yeah. And, you know, there's opportunities that arise for both parties because of it. And, you know, when you have that many people involved in an operation, it's very challenging to be productive and be functional because, you know, everybody wants to make decisions. And I always joke around with people that, you know, sometimes it's not great to have a Chiefs and Indians problem to where you don't have the Indians. And, you know, all of us are very strong-willed and we like to make decisions. And so, you know, Dad and I we do our own thing, and we focus a lot on the livestock side and the hay piece of things. Don't necessarily do as much on the row crop side. We do raise some corn and soybeans, but, you know, for us, especially as a segue into the auction business, I got to be careful, and it's very challenging to try to get any tillable ground to farm. And I don't want to be that person to run in there and try to take ground away from somebody to increase my acreage base. And I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's kind of channeling a little bit of my grandpa in there to where if that's what it is, I'm just not going to do it. And
I think that's tough for a lot of those guys, especially if they're all on lease rates, and which I'd say the majority of the farmers are leasing and not owning. And you, I mean, you need to grow your operation, but you got other people who are maybe not necessarily competitors, but you know, they're doing the same thing that you're doing, and you don't want to beat them down. You don't want to undercut them. You don't want to do crazy things just to get the ground. But man, that's a tough realm. You got to kind of sit around and wait.
And that's what the barrier of entry is immense in multiple facets, because you have, God forbid, you go out and try to buy equipment. Oh, it's absolutely insane. And so, like, when I had talked about the whole hustling thing, I've had to try to buy and sell equipment and just keep upgrading and try to find the next deal that's going to help advance you, to give you an opportunity to, use a piece of equipment and try to make some money on it.
Yeah.
And then just keep progressing. But trying to buy equipment and then trying to get the ground to get the equipment to use it. So it becomes a real big dynamic of, you have to have the equipment to be able to farm the ground, but you can't buy the equipment unless you got the ground to farm.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just magically walk out of your door and say, oh, hey, we're picking up 500 acres tomorrow, and we're also going to go buy all the equipment to farm it. Oh, and we got to pay for all the inputs at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a quick way.
$2 million in the hole in about 10 minutes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And that's no joke.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably, I don't know where this ever came from, but people always think that farmers they're just making money hand over fist. They've got a lot of money. And I think that maybe if you've gotten the farm that's been in a family, you're farming own ground for a lot of years. It's been
multi-generations.
Multi-generations. You've got things that have been handed down, and not handed to, but handed down. And you're working, there's probably a good opportunity to make money there. But other than that, you're
but that's what it is more than anything else. It's opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much being given a tractor or being given a piece of dirt. A lot of it comes down to just being given the opportunity, to where you had generations in the past that had fought the fight. They had lived poor. They died rich. That way they set the stage and they set the opportunity for the next generation to not have to struggle. But, from the auction business, the big thing that we've seen that I have probably paid attention to more than anything else is the third generation rule. And that is something that it is eerily accurate. If you make it past 3 generations, you got a good shot of this thing running a long haul. But it's getting to the third generation, because the first generation sets the stage. The second generation makes it. And the third generation, I'm sorry for this, but they piss it away. And so, but they've never, and my wife and I have had that discussion, multiple times, and I've talked to her about it of, it's like with this slaughterhouse up there. I have absolutely tried to make this thing as successful as possible and almost killed myself doing it. But, at the end of the day, if I don't make any money off this for the next 10 years, there's nothing else I could have done to garner that much of an asset by doing anything else that I was doing at the current time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be absolutely miserable. But, I've got an opportunity sitting there that, we try to do as good of a job as we possibly can. That way, when I leave at the end of the day, there's always going to be people that are upset. Now, some of them are warranted because we make mistakes. We're human. I've got people that work for me. We're people. And, our goal is to minimize those as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, when you start setting that stage for that next generation, I look at my kids, and if they want to take it over, great. If not, I'll have something to help give them a start in the future.
Yeah. They can sell it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll sell it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But, everybody always talks about the Donald Trump thing that, and whether you're politically affiliated with that or not, I mean, I'm not going down that road, but, everybody always jokes around that, Trump was, well, my dad gave me a small loan to get started. It was $1 million.
Yeah.
But what could you do with $1 million? And you can't argue the success of what he's done. Now, maybe the path wasn't always as what people would consider socially acceptable, but at the end of the day, if someone was to give you that much money to invest and capitalize on, what could you do? And that's kind of the same focus I have a little bit with my kids, that if I can get them that opportunity, hopefully they don't, as they say in the third generation, piss it away. So, but it's also teaching my kids to work.
Yeah.
They go with me. We unload cattle. Now they're little guys, so I got to be careful about that. But, I've got 2 little boys, so 3 and 5. And when we have hog check-in days at the locker, they're with me.
Yeah.
And my little 3-year-old, man, I got to pay attention to him because he is in the scale like a little border collie trying to chase the hogs off the scale. And I had some lady about 3 weeks ago. Oh, she was just deathly afraid. She's just wigging out. I said, ma'am, he's fine. If he gets knocked down, he's going to get back up. And I was like, please don't call CPS on me.
I used to do that with Cody. He'd run our track. We got a 323 and he'd be running it, and the truck drivers would pull in and they'd all get on a radio screaming, some kid's on a machine. I'd say, hey, don't worry about him. You have it hard enough trying driving that truck. You just don't worry about that 7-year-old kid up there running a 40,000-pound machine. It'd be all right. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think that if your kids have the work ethic and they understand what it means to work hard, they get excited about working hard and understand that that's going to pay off. I think that's an education you cannot give to somebody every single day, and they're always going to bounce back. And I think a lot of kids think that my kids are spoon fed or they're spoiled brats or whatever they are, and they don't realize that how hard they work and how much time they put in, and they're living on a farm. I mean, this is what they do,
right?
And they would certainly love to go to Kings Island. They'd love to go hang out with their buddies and be in a neighborhood and just run around, being a kid. And they do so many other things. But that's a different thing. So let's back up a minute. So Andy Korb, you keep talking about the slaughterhouse. You own Stockyards. And what is it? I know we always call it Stockyards, but it's
Stockyards Packing Company LLC.
Yep. Stockyards Packing Company. It's in College Corner, outside of Oxford, and you're a butcher shop essentially is what most people would consider this. We haul cattle up there to you, and you slaughter them, and you hang them, and then you're cutting them into steaks and
retail cuts, whatever the customer wants.
Do an amazing job, and you also are an auctioneer, and you do a number of other things, but I don't know if I want to lead into the auctioneering business or we want to lead into the stockyards business.
We could talk here for the next 2 weeks if you wanted to.
You started talking a minute ago, and I was like, this is amazing. I don't even have to say anything. You could carry this thing for another hour.
This is what I do. I talk for a living.
I do too.
I mean, you got to be careful, dude. Like, you give me a microphone, I don't shut up.
I'm the same way.
Ask my wife. Oh, she said something to me earlier. She's like, good luck with the podcast. Not like you're going to need it. He'll probably have to shut you up a couple times. I was like, wow, I don't know if that's aggressive or what the deal is.
My buddies always say that if there's a microphone, then I'm usually standing in front of it. I don't know what it is. I feel like I should talk. So let's talk about the auctioneering business. I was going to tell you this, and I didn't bring it with me, and I'm kind of disappointed. But the way I learned to auctioneer, and I don't have my license or anything like that, but when I was in college, that everybody would go down. I thought it was in St. Joe, Missouri. It was the Worldwide College of Auctioneering, which
that's actually our city.
So
that's where I went to school.
We had a cassette tape. And when you signed up,
you're showing your age, Jeff.
I know. I'm telling you. When I was going to bring it with you, and I'm so disappointed I didn't. When you signed up to go to the college, they would mail you this cassette tape, and then you were supposed to listen to it all the way out there. And then by the time you got into the classroom, I think you kind of had an idea about your chant. You understood the correlation with everything. And I would play this thing because at the end of it, it's got some of their heroes on there. It's got all these guys that are just so quick, and it's pretty neat to listen to. But I also had another guy, a couple of different auctioneers. Merlin Woodruff was an unbelievable, super funny dude, old dude. And he always had a crack to put in the middle of there. I think I say it almost every show, but Myron Bowling was one of my mentors, and he was a hell of an auctioneer. But the guy up in Columbus used to say, hey, when you're traveling so much, because we were always driving to different farms and doing different things.
Telephone poles?
Sell it in between telephone poles.
Or cars?
Yeah, sell it in between cars. Sell it in between telephone poles. And get your chant down pat. So how did you get into the I'm still enamored with it every single day. How did you get into the auctioneering business?
Well, it's sexy. Yeah. They talk about that. It's sexy.
I think my wife disagrees.
She's probably like, God, I'm not allowed to talk to anybody anymore. She's gonna try to keep us away from each other. Is the problem. I don't know. I grew up. I've always been. So as soon as I could start driving, I started jockeying show pigs.
Yeah.
And I would go to sales, and, Kevin Wentz, another one, he does a really nice job.
Yeah.
And, Kevin would always roll in, and I would go buy show pigs, and I'd bring them home, and I'd sell them for a little extra money. And, it was just, I don't think I made a damn dime on that thing, but it was fun.
Yep.
And the people are just enamored because it's the excitement. It gets your blood pumping, and until you've done it so much, you kind of get a little, it's that nervousness. And I think that's why people go hunting so much, because it's the same feeling. You know, you got a deer that walks in, it's just, your body just starts going in uncontrolled spasms. But, you know, a lot of that time it happens the same way with people when they go to the auctions. And the benefit deals are the best. Oh my gosh. I love benefit auctions. They're so much fun. People start getting all boozed up and you just have a free pass to insult them and take all their money. So, but I was in college at Ohio State, and I'd always kind of been interested in it. And I know my grandma kind of started talking to me about it, and because it would have been my great grandpa and my great grandmother on my mom's side. They used to go clerk and, you know, do a lot of stuff for different people at through the auction deal. And I can't remember what auctioneer they did it for, but, you know, they used to clerk and cashier and, you know, kind of take care of that thing on that side of things for the auctioneers that were up in that Jackson Center, Ohio area.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I mean, I've got a history of being involved in it kind of way back when. It's kind of a far cry, but, you know, they were always on that side, not the one that's the dancing chicken on the microphone. But, you know, so I signed up for it, and I went out to Missouri, and, you know, the rest was history, and started working with some different guys. And I've had a lot of opportunities in that. And the challenge I had was I came home to kind of start become part of the farm again. And it's not a great lifestyle if you're going to be successful in it, because you're on the road all the time. So I kind of was at a crossroads. I had to make a decision, and it forced me to choose. Do I want to stay home and farm and start a family, get married, or do I want to blaze the road and have the absolute best time of my life at the time? No, I'm just joking. I wouldn't give up my kids or my family, my wife, for anything right now.
Way. But the thing that makes the road fun is
for a while.
For a while. I wouldn't want to do it forever.
But you get tired of that quick.
When I was younger, man, I mean, you meet some characters. I mean, you meet some of the funniest characters, some of the craziest people, things that
it's some of the situations.
I mean, you can come back and tell these stories and people are like, that's a yarn. I mean, that's a bullshit story.
But it's true.
It is so true.
Jeff, I got to participate in a sheep sale out in Reno, Nevada. Okay. So, you know, we're you know, little Vegas down there, and they had this sale in the bottom level of the parking garage of John Esquaga's The Nugget Casino, right in the middle of Reno. And so they shut the whole bottom level down. They set all these pins up, and they showed the sheep on the outside of the parking garage on this little AstroTurf area they had set up. And then the sale was in the auditorium of the freaking casino. Oh, it was so fun. I didn't make nothing on that trip. Oh, it was a blast. I did it for like 2 or 3 years. And, you know, they bring these sheep in the back, run them across the auditorium. Like, you literally have slot machines right outside of the sale ring or out of the auditorium. And there's people that are peeking their heads and they're like, what the hell is going on in here?
That's awesome.
And, it was a good time. So was the sale.
I had deals like that, especially fitting cattle, and I'd call the guy and I said, hey, I don't remember you paying me. And he goes, well, I'm not going to pay you because you and your buddies drank all my beer and ate all my food. Oh, okay.
Well, and the funny thing is because of that sale, I met this family from Red Bluff, California. And so, I mean, I'll talk to anybody. I don't give a shit who you are. And so we were in Red Bluff. So they asked me if I wanted to come out to the wedding of their daughter. I was like, hell yeah, I'll come out there. So, I was bad about this. Like, I would hop on a plane. It didn't matter where I was going. I was damn near a gypsy for a while. And so I hop on this plane, fly into San Francisco, and rented a Harley, rode all the way up through Napa and Sonoma Valley, and then ended up in Red Bluff, California, which is like 3 hours north of San Francisco. And, you know, they're getting married. It's an ag family. And so we're getting married, or they're getting married out there, in which it's a whole different area. They're out there bailing the damn roadsides. I'm like, what in the world? And so everybody out there's got a swather. They've got all these fruit and nut trees out there. And then they've even got some rice bogs out there. And so I'm riding down through the interstate, and I'm looking down through there, and have you ever been to some of these tree farms to where they'll have rows of a lot taller trees, and then they've got a bunch of shorter ones, and there's a row of taller trees. So I get up to the wedding area, and then out there they don't even have barns. It's just canopies for their buildings. They don't have rain. So I'm talking to them about these trees, and they're like, oh yeah, those rows are male trees. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Do I look like I got stupid written across my forehead? And sure as shit, that's what they were. They had rows of male trees that would pollinate all the female trees.
Really?
Yeah. I had no idea.
Huh.
And that's legit. So if you go buy like a fruit tree at Lowe's, they graft the roots together, and so then they do the asexual deal. I'm like, hell yeah. I'm going to go home and everybody's going to tell me how dumb I am. But I mean, it was, when we had our dinner, when my wife and I got married, it was all because of that wedding out there. So they had this big ass steak fry. So we pull into the farm, and they served ribeyes. They had baked potatoes. I mean, it was a freaking feed, man. And so we start rolling in there, and I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. But then they said, just be careful because we got a lot of rattlesnakes around here. I'm like, no, dog, I'm out on this. Like, you're not kidding me. Like, no, if you hear a shotgun go off, it's probably because somebody shot one trying to come into the canopy. I'm like, you guys are freaking crazy. Like, you're not joking, are you? No, we're dead serious. I'm like, no, I don't know if I'm all okay with this. So we go through the wedding, and then that same evening, I sold a Dance with the Bride. Yeah. I ended up bringing like $2,200. I'm like, oh my God, I'm moving to California. And then that ended real quickly. I didn't do that anymore. But that trip was a blast.
What's your chant? I think that was one of the most difficult things for people to understand. Clearly, I'm having a hard time talking. Is that you're actually saying things in your chant? What's your chant say? Do you have a favorite one, or do you just do it all different all the time?
No, I mean, everybody's got a repetition. It's always about it's a cyclical deal that you just kind of roll together. And it just depends on what situation you're in too. You know, you can go through, and if you're really moving along, you don't really say many words because you just put all numbers in there and you just kind of hum it together a little bit and it works. Yeah. And so, you know, you can say, I have 100. I need 125, and now 150, 175, and now 200. Yeah, you can say that, but it sounds absolutely dreadful. It's like, I'm going to go scratch my eyes out and then poke myself in the face because I got tired of listening to this idiot. So when you do it, you know, you kind of just, you create a little bit of it. It's almost like a song. And so, you know, without any filler words, I got 100, I need 125, I need 100, now 125, I need 125, I need 150, now 75, now $200. And so you don't, I mean, it's all about your voice inflection. And that's why you get me on a microphone, man. I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go. Like, what do you got to do? And, you know, honestly, one of the things that really helped me was I was the announcer at the swine barn at the Ohio State Fair for quite a few years. And, you know, Kevin Went really helped me a lot as far as managing the crowd, managing where you're at. I mean, that was such a good time. I love that deal. And because I would just sit up there and call classes and announce placings and congratulations to those exhibitors in class number J22 purebred Hampshire market hogs weighing 221 to 225. First in that class went 2. And it was just like, it was like radio announcer voice 100%. I was like, this is badass. Yeah. And so when it just kind of came in, you know, it really helped me on that side from the auction deal because, you know, when you got a fast-paced auction, you don't need to say anything else but the numbers. But then when you got something that's slowing down and you got a crowd that's just working your ass to death and there's beating you to pieces, now you got to start throwing your filler words in. Yeah. And so a lot of times people use like dollar bidder. You know, you can say things, shoot, I don't even know what some of these guys are using. But like one thing, so I'm 125 bidder, here to get 100, here to get 100 $100 bidder, now 125, I'm 150. And, you know, you can just work it in. And, you know, there's certain numbers that are harder to say for others than there is for other people. But when we went to auction school, they always try to teach you the tongue twisters. One of them was like, Tommy Atatimus took 2 T's, tied them atop of 2 tall trees.
Big brown bear ate a big brown bug.
I hated that thing. It's so stupid. The Tommy Atatimus one, man, that was my deal because you could like just pop it, make it work. Because I mean, when it's all about your voice inflection and rolling. Because you can sit here and say Tommy Atatimus took 2 T's, tied them atop of 2 tall trees. But when you say it a little quicker and you kind of let that thing pop and roll off your tongue, is Tommy tied him took 2 T's, tied him atop of 2 tall trees. And you just create that buzz, and it's making the urgency of when people are sitting in the crowd, they're like, holy crap, he's going to sell this thing. And I want you to feel like I'm going to just drop the hammer on you. But I'm going to make you feel real good about yourself because you're going to let me reach in your pocket and I'm going to take all your money.
That's great. So what I talked to you a while ago about going to school to be an auctioneer, and one of the most difficult parts is that you have to do apprenticeship.
Had to.
You don't have to anymore?
No, they got rid of it all because
I might go back to school.
Well, that was a big, and I see it on one side, but I don't on the other. The problem was they said there was too much of a barrier entry because nobody wanted to work with anybody, which I get it to a point because you're kind of training your competition. But if you're not an asshole in the meantime, maybe they'll stay with you and you can actually do something together.
I think that's a thought. That was your point, is to say when you come out to do your apprenticeship that nobody wants to help you because they don't want to train you to go out and work against them.
Right.
So you'd almost have to do I couldn't stay here, build houses and do my apprenticeship. I'd have to go somewhere else where they know that I'm not going to be competing against them. And I remember I had a sale to do because Shannon's uncle passed away and he had tons of stuff. And so we brought it up to our shop and I talked to Myron and I'm like, just make me your apprentice and I'll sell it. And he goes, and like, I kept saying it to him and we were walking around looking at stuff and he finally turns around, looked at me and he goes, I can't just make you an apprentice.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you probably want to turn around and be like, shut up, jackass. Gosh.
That was so funny. But I think it's so much more than what people know that it is. The auctioneering method of marketing is so much more than what people think. It's a chant and they have no idea.
There's
the
so
background,
much more to it than that.
All the organization, all of the label, all the marketing that goes along with it.
Well, and if you're going to be a successful auctioneer, as far as just the bid calling period only, just the bid calling, you got to be able to read people.
Yeah.
And you got to know what people are going to do. And if you're not careful, because you'll hear this all the time, people say, oh, they took forever. Like they took, and there's some auctioneers, I hate going to their sales because they don't pick up the pace. And like, if you ever come to one of our sales that I'm selling at, you better buckle up.
Yeah.
Because we're not waiting for you.
That's the point of it.
Yes.
Just drop it.
And we roll. And there's a younger guy up in Northern Ohio. His name's Darby Walton. And, he and I have worked together quite a bit here over the last, oh my gosh, I don't know. He came and he met me at a hay sale I was doing in Plain City. And I hope he listens to this because I'm going to just bust his balls. But I mean, it wasn't quite to this degree, but he's like, hello, Mr. Korb, can I work with you? Will you please help me? And I give him a hard time about that all the time. And, his family's been in the auction business. He's a 3rd generation auctioneer and he's doing very, very well for himself.
Nice.
And so, but he was trying to figure out a way to kind of break the mold. And, what can I do to be progressive and, move to that next step? And he's done a good job of kind of putting himself in that position. I'll never tell him that to his face, but, it's my job to bust his balls. But the thing about him, when we had a farm sale, this is my classic thing. Like, we get the wagons. I hate wagons. I hate small stuff. Oh, it drives me nuts. But like, when we roll into a sale, we sell the big stuff first. Like, I'm going to sell tractors right out of the gate. We start at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. Do not be late because you will be gone.
Yeah.
And so, we save all of the little crap toward the end. Just because if I get one extra bid on a tractor, you know how much small stuff we got to do to make up that?
Yeah.
And those guys that come to buy those tractors, they're coming with a big stick and a big checkbook.
Yeah.
So take care of them. Make sure that they're, yeah. I mean, they've got things to do. And so, so when we get to the wagons, I'll tell everybody, I'm selling you choice off the top. And then you watch everybody freak out. And they're like, well, what if I want something? Well, you buy the choice.
Yeah, you can.
And well, you can't do that. Au contraire, sir. Watch me. So usually what happens is it only takes about 3-4 lots, and then all of a sudden it's just like, phew,
Yeah.
and we make a fortune off that stuff.
That's awesome.
And so, usually you get to the second wagon, man, they are ready to go. And instead of, because I got a rule, and Darby will tell you this, like, I'll start saying, we don't drop below $5 on those wagons. You don't want to spend $5 for it, I don't got time.
Yeah.
I'm not taking $1.
I think that's one of the things that drive me crazy is, man, if you're bidding on a cow that's $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 and the guy starts bumping it on you by $25 or $50, and it's like, really, man?
Yeah.
I mean, I was just getting ready to take it home, and now you're just screwing around, and you're bidding on a $100,000 tractor, and the guy starts bumping it by $100, and it's like,
Yeah, it's like, no.
man, come on, you gotta move it, you gotta get rid of it. And
Well, we get to those wagons. If we get ready to drop below $5, like if I don't get $5 for a choice, I'll tell people, be careful. Be careful. I will sell the whole wagon. And usually what I'll do is I'll draw a line right down the middle of that freaking thing. And I was like, all right, time's up. That's it. You're buying the whole front half of the wagon. And people were like, you want a choice again? No. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And so usually that's when you get to the second wagon and you crack one of them wagons off. Now you got to put some shit on the first wagon, like to make sure it's not very good.
right.
But you get to that first wagon, make sure it's a okay, but just dump that thing and then watch people lose their minds. And then you get to the second wagon and you've got like 3 pieces left on the top when you get to the end. It works every time.
I mean, that and what we're talking about is building up to make it quick. I mean, you're talking fast. Everybody's bidding, and if you sit there all day, then people know that they got all day. But if you drop the hammer on it, then that means that it's going to be sold, and then they got to know that they got to pick up the pace and they got to start thinking about bidding a lot quicker. So, again, I think that probably one of the greatest jobs in the world would be one of them cattle guys where everybody else is doing all the marketing, everybody else is putting all the books together, and me, I just come rolling in there,
run your mouth and leave.
Yeah, run my mouth, drink everybody's beer, eat the food, probably do a couple other things, burn out of town, go to the next deal.
But if you're going to be successful in this deal, it's not about trying to talk fast, because it's not about talking fast. It's making the illusion that you're talking fast, and it's creating the rhythm and creating the atmosphere and the environment. But if you're going to do this effectively, you can always know your numbers.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's not always about, putting a bunch of filler words in. That's not the key. The key is being clear. If you got to sit there and count and that's all you do, then you'll be successful. Because if people don't understand your numbers, they're not going to bid to you.
I was surprised that we went to Meekum auction up in Indianapolis in the spring there, and I think that they use Sullivan's auctioneers. I saw it, and those guys they're really good.
Sullivan's they're a big deal mostly in Indiana, but they do a nice job.
Yeah, but those auctioneers they did a really good job, and that's that makes sense. Them guys only hold 4 or 5 sales a year, and to keep an auctioneer on staff like that's probably like somebody who's got.
They'll have farm sales and things like that, but I mean that's
Sullivan's do. Meekum only has.
Yeah, Meekum's right.
Yeah, it's a lot of show there. So let's roll on. Let's talk about why we're here.
Yeah, what else you want to talk about,
Let's talk
Jeff?
about why we're here. I don't know why we're here, but I'm having a good time.
What time does this thing start? 2:10, 2 o'clock?
Yeah,
I thought you said this was going to be an hour. You're a liar, sir.
We might have to break it up into 6 episodes. We'll have to see how it goes. So let's talk about the slaughter business, and I think let's call it the meat business, because when you talk to people about, or I talk to people about selling them freezer beef, selling them whatever, that's what they like to talk about is steaks, and they think they know what they're talking about, and they do all these things. And and they don't like to think about the fact that there was that animal was there and it was alive, and then somebody had to kill it, and that's a lot of different story. So one of the things that really got me interested in realizing, I always knew you knew what you were doing, but when we were a couple weeks ago, you had a carcass competition. We had a couple of steers in there, and me and Cody were able to come up, and you had Dr. Garcia there from Ohio State, and then we had the opportunity to go into the cooler, see the beef hanging, and we got the opportunity to listen to her speak and talk about how, if the USDA was going to grade the beef to choice to prime to whatever it is. And then we also got to see how you guys cut it up. And I thought it was super interesting. And I think that most people would find it from that point forward probably pretty interesting. They probably would just never eat meat again if they knew all the other details that went along.
Well, but I would like to touch on that a little bit. It's one of the things that you have to be very cognitive of is that there's no abuse that happens.
Right.
And, these animals are here for a purpose. They're here for our sustenance, and they're here for us to, lead healthy lives and have a balanced diet. And, the one thing that and not just because it's something that USDA makes us do, but because it's the right thing to do, is that when you look at how we handle the animals as they come off the trailers, from the time that we gain possession of them in the stockyards to the time that they're hanging in the cooler, there's a lot of stuff that we really focus on to make sure that that animal is as well cared for as much as possible. And, I can't emphasize and stress that enough. And the USDA calls it humane handling, but it's just handling them the way that they're supposed to be. And, we're not back there just with sticks and pitchforks and chasing them around the barn. And, as they come off the trailer, they go into a pen, they have water, they have feed if we need to offer feed. But, it's one of those things where we offer them as much comfort as we possibly can before they head on to the kill floor. And, as they start moving into that day or that point where they become harvested, we make sure as much as we possibly can that there's no sharp objects. They're getting handled as quietly and as effectively as possible to where they're not getting worked up and stressed, and, the cortisol levels stay as low as possible. And so as that animal enters the knock box, whatever happens, we make sure that they don't know what happened. And so that way, we have two separate facilities inside the meat locker. We are a federally inspected USDA meat packing facility, but we also have a custom exempt portion of that as well. And so let's just say that Jeff Whelan brings us a beef, or let's say you bring us two beef. Okay. So the first one you're going to want to take back, and it needs to be under USDA inspection. And so it has a federal legend on it that they call it the bug, and it gets stamped that it's inspected USDA for wholesomeness. And so what that means is that we have an inspector stand there the entire time during our kill. They watch every single thing that we do. They make sure that, food safety, humane handling, everything is done exactly to the way that the government says it needs to be. And there's a lot of paperwork, and it can be a downright pain sometimes, but it is important for us to follow those protocols because it does foster a healthy and wholesome food source. Now, the difference is that if it's a USDA inspected beef that we killed under USDA inspection, what that means is that you can take that beef back, and we're going to cut it into retail cuts for you. It has the legend on it under USDA, and you can sell one steak at a time. Now, we can also do a custom exempt kill. So beef number 2 that you brought to us, we do the exact same thing. All of our protocols, all of our procedures, everything is to a T, exactly the way it is with USDA, except for we don't have the inspector standing there. Now, the purpose of that is because let's just say that you got 4 buddies, and every one of them wants to buy a quarter of that beef. If you sell that to them as a quarter, it can go under what they call custom exempt inspection. So it's technically not an inspected beef. It's not monitored under USDA. Now, obviously, like I said, we're a little different than most. We do everything exactly the same. Yeah. So the only thing that it does do, like if somebody brings us animals and they don't need USDA inspection, I ask them, is there any way that we can just do it under custom? Because what it does is it kind of hinders us a little bit on the processing side from hours of operation, and it saves us a pile of paperwork.
Yeah. You got to, I didn't think about that. You got to be like probably done at 4 o'clock or something like
3:30.
3:30 to be. They're looking at other things, and I know this because I went to school in Worcester, and we had Kidron and Mount Hope up there, mm-hmm. and so there was a lot of rough stuff that would be hauled in there and by the Amish guys and some other guys. And for one, the rule up there always was they have to stand on their own.
Oh yeah,
and which means they can't lean them up against the post when they bring them in there. This is the kind of stuff that would happen, and this is just kind of
meat
funny.
Inspection has progressed tremendously in the last 50 years.
Yeah, it's a ton. But with you, obviously, I think it's probably a higher standard. But they would say, hey, it's got to be, it can't be sick. It can't be openly bleeding. It can't have one leg only working or something like that. All those things. It has to be healthy when it comes in the door.
They call those non-ambulatory.
Yeah.
To where you can't bring me down cows.
Yeah.
And so, and that's a way to ensure that our food source coming into, what you're going to feed to your family is going to be safe.
Yeah.
And because obviously if you bring me good cattle and then you have somebody that's dragging some nasty old cow in there that has no business entering the food chain, you don't want that cow to be hanging next to yours inside of the carcass cooler.
Yeah.
And out of respect, we don't let that happen.
Yeah. And that's a good business person. And that's the trust that you can get out of coming to somebody like you to do this. And that's the same trust that I expect somebody to come and want me to build their house, is that there's a certain level of integrity that you have to be able to do business the way you've chosen to do it. So,
and we've talked about that I've had this discussion with a lot of people on the whole building side, is that, if there's supposed to be 3 nails in a spot, you can hire Wheeling Builders and there's going to be 3 nails in that spot. And you can confidently write us a check that, they're going to come and they're going to build your home for you, and that those nails are where they're supposed to be. We didn't just spend half a wall only putting 1 nail in there because we're going to try to cut costs.
Yeah.
And I know you guys don't operate that way, and we don't either. I mean, you would not have near of the business that you do if that was the case. I mean, you guys do a good job of following through.
I think it's also where you're not looking to do more business. You're looking to do better business all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's what we try and do here. But, one of the things that I picked up on when we left there after listening to you guys speak was, I'm like, man, maybe I need to start thinking about how we're managing the cattle on the farm, which means fly control, feed supplements, but, certain areas for certain pens. What's the temperature when we haul them over to you, because we're an hour away from you, 50 minutes away from you. What's the temperature going to be in the trailer? How far is it that we're hauling? And like you talked about, what's the amount of chaos that's going to happen once it gets to the stockyards? I mean, if you take them to a lot of other butchers, you don't really want them to come off the trailer and go right into the kill box, right? I mean, you want them to probably chill for a little while, clean out, and be ready to go.
Well, and so for those of you who don't know, clean out means they actually empty their guts.
Yeah.
Because one thing that we really need to focus on too is that they need to be comfortable when they come in. They need to be comfortable when they're there. And one way for us to kind of minimize stress a little bit is we allow them to go ahead and they can lay down overnight. They can just relax and they can chill out, and they can just, just try to be as comfortable as possible before it becomes, the point where they enter the kill floor.
Yeah. Do you ever follow Temple Grandin?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that people take that I don't know if they know who she is, and she's going to be somewhere on next weekend. I think I can't remember. I saw it somewhere. I'm
not a groupie, so I don't know.
I do, and I am.
I'm not trying to throw you under the bus.
Well, I think about this because when we were at ATI, we were rebuilding all the working chutes, and we listened to a lot of what she had to say, and then there's other places that I know that she's been, and then they had a movie about her, and it's just really cool. But it's all about handling the cattle and the tone and everything that you do with the cattle and how you handle them has so much of an effect on what their beef quality is going to be like, what their breeding quality is going to be like. Everything that leads into this, the management style that you use is so important to be able to do these things. So I was thinking about all of those things because I wanted our beef to be better, and so how do I do that? And some of it's completely out of my control. I mean, you get the breed of the cow or whatever it is that's happening there, but there's so many other things that are in my control. It's the same way with you. So how much of this stuff, that when you start talking about, you get a beef and it's hanging on a rail and you look at it and you're like, that thing's horrible. How much of that stuff could you look at it and say, well, here's what happened? Or
I can tell you what it look like. I can tell you what they look like on the rail walking on the scale.
Yeah.
And so, kind of reiterating what you were saying about Temple Grandin, and those of you who have not had a chance to watch it, there's a movie called Temple Grandin. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it, it's a great segue into the way that it used to be.
Yeah.
And now I will say a lot of the designs of the working systems and the handling facilities that, she really focused on, they're going to be more applicable probably out west because they got bigger open areas that they can actually spread this thing out. And for anybody who's not familiar with the way this functions, the Temple Grandin system is a lot of a lot of chutes that kind of sweep back and forth like in almost an S pattern. And so that way, and they kind of curve back on themselves, because the one thing that cattle want to do, they have a natural progression to want to come back to the area that they were just at. And in times of the fight or flight response, when they want to fight, they want to go back to where they were. And so there is another there's another individual that created things as well called the Bud system or the Bud box. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, you have to Google that one. And so there's Temple Grandin and there's also the Bud box. And when I went through and I laid out the approach from the Stockyards into the kill floor, I kind of incorporated both scenarios. So the Bud box is more of alleys. Temple Grandin is more chutes. And so the Bud box system, you kind of move them in groups, and Temple Grandin, they're more single file. And both of them have their applications for whatever your facilities will bear. And I mean, there's not one that I feel is better than another. It's just they're different. And so we have them go through the box scenario to where they kind of move through big alleys. And then when they start to get into the kill floor, then we narrow them down into a chute that kind of sweeps and curves around into the knock box. So they don't look directly into the chute system. And so we've tried to incorporate both of those into the same function. And so it's kind of ironic that you brought that up. But yeah, I did a lot of research on that because I laid the plan out 100% from scratch. I've probably got like 80 sheets of graph paper. You asked my wife how many times I came home and talked about a slaughter plant. There was one night that she said, "I love you, but please, I don't want to hear about any more kill plants." And so I think I went through like 42 plants. It was some number bigger than 40, I think. And it was from the eastern part of the United States, and then I went all the way down to West Texas A&M down in Canyon, Texas, just south of Amarillo. And because I was always joking around, I was like, I left super early in the morning, and I was heading out to Amarillo by morning. My wife didn't think that was as funny as I did. Because I called her right away. I was like, "I'm in Amarillo by morning, baby."
Like, okay, see ya.
Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, okay, have fun. Bye."
Well, thinking about Temple Grandin, she is the cool thing about her is that she is autistic and severely autistic to where she could not, and I'm putting this in my own words, but she could not necessarily relate to humans, but she had some kind of connection with animals.
Mostly cattle.
Because
of her family.
Yeah.
Did you know that part?
I don't know if I knew that part.
Have you watched the movie?
I have. I'm older than you, don't forget, so I don't have as good a memory.
I didn't say that.
You implied it.
I did.
Oh, I don't remember, but I do. I know that she was, and then I just know so many cool things about the way. Hey, this is what happens. She could watch it and say, "This is what these animals are doing," and this.
Well,
her
is what family had a cattle ranch down in Texas or Oklahoma.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so she went. She had started college and she had some real challenges, and they had her go spend the summer with. I think it was her mother's sister, I believe, and they had cattle down there. And so that was the whole premise of everything. So the whole path of her life was all from that one summer.
I think I do remember that part now. Yeah. The one of the most interesting parts I remember that movie is that they did not want a woman working in the stockyards. So she dressed up like a dude and then went in there and acted like she was a dude to get into the door.
Oh, yeah. She couldn't get access at all.
Right. And then so she went in there and just, tore the place upside down and redid. So I guess the point is that I really want people to understand that I think so many people, when I have conversations with them, because if I'm not talking about building houses or my kids, I'm talking about farming, I'm talking about cattle. And I think that so many people have this impression that farmers are shit kickers and maybe we're not doing things in a organizational sense, or we're not doing things in a business sense, and it's all got some sort of method to it.
Science
and science to it is so important. And this handling of the cattle is not just magically put there. You were talking about going and visiting these slaughterhouses, and I think the same thing about barns. When you go to build a barn on your farm, however you want it set up on the inside,
which is never big enough.
It's never big enough, but you need to tour as many barns as you possibly can in order to understand, what you want it to look like and how you want it to work. So,
but ask the hard questions.
Oh yeah.
And so that's kind of the focus that I had with the whole meat plant, was that when I walked into somebody's facility, I asked 2 questions. Well, I guess it was 4 technically, because there was one inside of the other one, but it was, tell me what you absolutely love about this place and why. That's the second one. And then tell me what you absolutely love and hate.
Yeah.
And why. And, when you start kind of going down that, most of the time you get these BS responses because nobody wants to be honest with you. They don't tell you what you want to hear, or they want to tell you what you want to hear. They won't tell you the reality. There's a few people that they were straight up and they were honest, and I'll never be able to repay them for that. And so, but I picked up a lot of stuff because of that. Yeah. And like our kill floor, one thing we did this past winter is we hosted a B509. And I really ramrodded that thing through, trying to make sure that we were going to be able to offer that to producers down in Southwest Ohio. And which, ironically, we ended up pulling some people from way out of Northeast Ohio. But Ohio Cattlemen's, Ohio Beef Council, and then Ohio State University Meat Science Extension, they would always host a B509 program that would typically be hosted at Ohio State because the meat lab, they had the facilities. And so what it is, it's an everything beef. And it gives producers primarily, but I mean, it's for anybody in the industry, it's anybody who wants to participate. But it is a program that was put together to teach and educate those individuals more so than this is not just how you raise cattle. I know your granddad did it this way back in the 1920s, but there's a lot more science to this. Let us teach you how to do it. And so it's understanding nutrition. This is why these feedstuffs function the way they do. This is what will happen if you feed this particular feedstuff to your cattle. The other thing is understanding the meat science portion of it. And so it teaches you everything about the marketing. And the cool thing is, so the B509 program is that we have everybody come in. We have a classroom portion. And I have 8. How do we do that? Did we have 6? I think we had 6 people in a group. So there was 30 people. And that's right. It was five groups, 6 people per group. And then what we did is we had 7 cattle and we auctioned them off live. We're going to tell you that you have to buy them. Now, this is fake money, but understand that we are going to have you buy them for what you feel is going to garner you a profit at the end on the retail cut standpoint. And so Lindsay Grimes Hall, they're down in Hillsborough area. She was a big part of it. She's really involved with Ohio Cattlemen's and Ohio Beef Council. I think she's vice president of OCA this year. But
right.
So I've gotten to know Lindsay really well and become pretty good friends. Don't tell her I said that. But I mean, she's kind of cool.
I'm going to share this with Joni so she can send it to her.
Oh, I call her Joni, Mama J Grimes. So she, I really like that family quite a bit. Yeah. And unfortunately, they just lost John this past spring and summer.
He was a tremendous leader in the cattle business. I mean, he's an unbelievable wellspring of knowledge.
Oh, yeah. Just, and with the certified Angus beef piece and, really ramrodding that thing through and creating what it became, he was one of the integral part of that program. Yeah. And, one of the key people that started it. And so, Lindsay's one that's really kind of followed in that footsteps and her husband, Adam, they do a really nice job running some high end Angus and Simmental cattle down in Hillsborough. Yep. And so she was one that really helped me kind of put this program together that, we pulled the 509 program they'd already done, but we put it for the first time ever in an actual plant that wasn't at the Ohio State Meat Lab. So, I mean, it's like totally outside of the box. People are like running for the hills, they're grabbing their pitchforks like it's raining. And so but one of the cool things is we ran these cattle in. And so every group had to buy a beef. Well, it's just like selling gravity bed wagons at an auction. You buy the first one out of the gate because it's the cheapest. And if you don't buy the first one, buckle up, Buttercup, because it's about ready to get dangerous. And so then it gets stupid. And ironically, what we were selling some of those cattle for just ungodly prices in the B509 program is not too much higher than where these things are hitting at right now.
Oh, yeah. Today it's crazy.
So everybody's like, this is so dumb. And it was almost like we were prophesizing what was actually happening. But it was one of the cool things about it is you could buy a beef. Every group could buy up to 2 cattle. And so, but you can only own one at the end. And so what we did is that if you didn't get a beef bought, the other group could sell it to you for a profit, which comes off the bottom line at the end. So if you made money off of that beef and it came back, then you're already way ahead of the group. So the first group buys 2 head, and they absolutely cornhole the last group. And so, but the program is that you bought the beef, and then we came in, and you got, if you wanted to do it, we ran those cattle onto the kill floor, and we killed them during the program.
Nice.
So you could see how the kill floor actually functioned. It wasn't a requirement. I'm not going to make somebody sit through that if they don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm a heartless monster now because I've killed so many animals, but it's a necessity in society, unfortunately.
I was just looking up the cattle prices for today on the National Beef Wire, and it's $3.76 a pound for steers, for fat steers,
Hanging weight.
And yeah, I mean, it's just that's incredible. I mean, that's a huge number to think about where it's at. So not to cut you off, but I feel like you're right. We could be here for a couple of weeks, but let's think about the rate. So when we think about the cattle, and somebody goes and buys it, because this is what happens with people, is they always find somebody to buy some beef off of, some freezer beef, and no matter what it tastes like, they think it's the best thing they ever had because they're used to buying stuff at the Kroger's or the,
let's say 90% of the time.
90% of the time it's like that. And something I've realized is that it has a lot to not just do with the farmer, but it has a lot to do with the person who's doing the beef cutting and the butchering, and it has a lot to do with it for all the things we just talked about. But it also has a lot to do with it when the guys running the saws, cutting the steaks and cutting all the roast and cutting everything out of it, is making sure that you're not just cutting it and throwing it in there, cutting it and throwing it in there. You got to make sure that you're trimming it and cutting it. Mm-hmm. You don't get a big package of crap and that nobody wants. And so that's so important. That was one of the things that I was thinking about, is the yield rates, the meat versus the carcass, and what that looks like. And when you talk about hanging weight, when people talk about buying a side of beef, it's not the whole cow. Either you're buying a quarter, a half, or a whole. And then we get into the breeds, like, what makes the gradings are choice, select, prime, right? I mean, or not in that order, but
select, choice,
prime, and then certified Angus beef, right?
Well, certified Angus beef is okay. So here's how this goes. You've got select. Select still has a tremendous amount of utility, and actually, they start, ironically I say utility. They have utility, okay, but then you can also have select, which is especially, like, we had an IGA in Ross, and they were notorious for putting ribeye primals out there that would be stamped select, and I'd go through there and I'd buy select ribeye primals that they graded choice, because whatever idiot grader was putting the grade on there, they didn't know what the hell they were looking at.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I could buy them at a select market and for way money under what it would cost to buy a choice. So what the certified Angus beef, the Angus Association did a phenomenal job of marketing. They're basically one of the only breeds that have tied their name to a quality grade.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for this, but just because it's certified Angus beef doesn't mean it's Angus.
It's only got to be 51% Angus, doesn't it?
It doesn't have to be any Angus at all.
And I thought it had to be 51% Angus and it had to be black.
No, it has to be black-hided.
Huh. Wow. There you go. Shorthorn cutting certified Angus beef.
That's pushing it. We're getting pretty optimistic on that one.
So I mean,
it's a quality grade.
It's a quality grade, because
Jeff, I've sent dairy beef Holsteins that are all black. So one of the parameters of certified Angus beef is they can't show dairy character. But if you have these half bloods that could be bred to a Simmental, they'll run a CAB as long as they hit the quality grade.
Yeah.
So they got to have carcass weights that are under 1,000 pounds. They can't show any southern cattle influence, i.e., big ears and a hump. And because they've kind of kept that piece out. And so one of the main things that they've done is the people that were involved with certified Angus beef, they did a phenomenal job of basically tying a quality product to the Angus breed. And kudos to the guys that actually did that. I mean, they did a phenomenal job of getting that taken care of. And so when you start looking at the quality grades, a CAB steak is actually a high choice. So what used to be is they'd have low choice, choice, or what they would say choice minus. So they'd have choice minus, choice, choice plus. So choice plus is high choice. Well, in order to be CAB, it has to be high choice or better. And so, you know, if we were, say we go buy a box of steaks, or we buy a box of primals and we want to put it in a retail case, I'm only going to buy CAB or higher. But see, I can buy the CAB quality and not pay for the prime, and I'm going to be right there. And so, and then, you know, the big craze right now is Wagyu.
I was going to ask you about that. Laura's lean beef, grass-fed beef, and then the Wagyu.
So Laura's Lane's a company, and, you know, they've developed a high quality piece that they can market, and they've done a lot of good job, or they've done a really good job of making sure that they're vetting the beef that comes into their program. And they've got a whole network of growers. And so the Laura's Lean beef, it's not necessarily it's better than anything else. They've just established an opportunity for consistency.
Yeah.
And so, and they do a nice job of it. What else was it? Laura's Lean, and what was the other one?
Laura's lean, grass-fed beef, and Wagyu.
Oh, grass-fed, grass finished.
Grass-fed. I don't believe in any of it, but just go ahead and tell me about it.
But see, everybody's jam's a little different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the thing that we struggle with on grass finished, because there's, you know, everybody asks me if our cattle are grass fed. Absolutely. They are grass fed. Now they're grain finished, but what do you want me to tell you? But the people that do grass fed, grass finished, the challenge is that most of the cattle in the United States are not conducive for that program. And so the beef just isn't, it doesn't have that flavor profile.
Meaning, I mean, when you say that, do you mean the total digestive nutrient requirement that they have needs minerals and needs all this potassium and salt and things that they're not getting from the vegetation?
No, the genetics.
Just the genetics.
The genetics are not catered to that.
Yeah.
Most of the cattle that are, if you look on a custom, on the small scale producer, most of the grass-fed, grass-finished cattle are not going to be conducive for what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Now, when I was at Ohio State, there was a couple of grad students that were in from Brazil. And in Brazil, that's basically all they do down there. But they kill cattle that are 3 and 4 years old. We don't do that here.
Right.
And so they gave them the time. They had the pasture set up to feed the beef, to feed the muscle, to feed the quality that they needed, and then they dry age the age back out of them. The toughness, to get the tenderness in, to get the flavor profile. And so that's where, you know, and we had some grass finished Brazilian steaks when we were at Ohio State that those guys got shipped in, and they were phenomenal. We don't have those here.
Yeah.
Or at least they're not as common. And there's some people in the United States that do a phenomenal job of that. And everybody's jam is different. And so, you know, they always, anybody who talks about grass-fed, grass-finished, they always like to really hammer on the omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. That is their deal. But, and it kind of goes back to the same thing as using some of these growth hormones, that when you look at the amount of impact that it would make on your diet, you would literally have to sit there and eat thousands of pounds of beef for you to see any quantitative difference whatsoever. And so when you look at what we're doing, I got a buddy calling me right now. Hold on a second. Hey, I'm doing a podcast. I'll call you back in a little bit. I do that when I'm selling. Like, we'll be going around like, I got 125, I got 150. I'll call you back. I got 175. Oh, I get all people all riled up. So with the whole process of the grass-fed, grass-finished, and omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, oh my God, if you don't eat grass-finished beef, you're going to die tomorrow. Probably not. But if that's what your jam is, then that's what you need to eat. And that's where, like, it just drives me crazy. And, you know, it's a very sensitive subject, like the whole Charlie Kirk deal. And I don't mean to bring that up, but it's okay to be different.
Yeah.
You can hate me all you want, but if that's your belief, then just roll with it. Don't push it off on me. I won't push it off on you. You know, variety is the spice of life. We can all function together. And the same thing goes with the grass-fed, grain-finished, grass-fed, grass-finished, veal, pork. You don't want to eat pigs because of a religious deal? That's fine. We'll eat it all for you.
What I think the question that people don't ask and don't realize is, hey, that's great. It's grass-fed. it's got to be getting something else. I mean, it just doesn't. I just don't believe that a cow should just live on grass. But then also, you're not paying attention to was the grass fertilized, and did they put anything on that grass? And when's the last time there was anything on that grass to help it grow? And that's what I think that people think, that there's chemicals in all the feed that we're feeding them, and that's what's ruining their taste or their life, or it's going to kill them if they eat a steak. I just don't understand any of that.
Well, there's so much science that goes into it from the nutrition side. You know, if you're going to feed your cattle nothing but forages, which they're ruminant animals, and that always cracks me up about people with the deer hunting. They always, oh man, deer is the most natural thing in the world. It's like, you dumbass. You do realize they're eating corn out of the fields, right? It's like, geez, oh, Pete.
Everything they can get their hands.
Like, I know you're not dumb, but you're not making it very easy for me to think otherwise. So, I mean, it just kills me.
What about the Wagyu? What makes Wagyu so special?
The fat's different.
Yeah.
And now I will say that, you know, as well as the Angus guys did it, you know, tying a quality grade, the Wagyu guys have done a great job, but they had a product to back it. You know, that's the thing. You can tell somebody that the sky is purple all you want, but until the sky turns purple, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so I will say that the Wagyu beef deal, because there's two facets of it. You've got Wagyu cattle, and then now you have the big mainstream thing is American Wagyu, because it was extremely expensive and extremely challenging for people to get a hold of Wagyu cattle. So what they did was they obtained the genetics through the cryogenic side, i.e. buying semen, and they were able to get semen shipped in way cheaper than they can get a cow or a bull sent here. And they started breeding the Angus cows, the Simmental cows, whatever cows they had on their farm. So they were able to take the semen that was getting shipped from across the pond and breeding all their cows. So, oh, well, we can't just call them half-bloods. We can't just call them crossbreds. Well, they're not going to have the value then. Oh, we have American Wagyu cattle. It is the Wagyu of the West. So, but the American Wagyu, it's still a good product. But it's a half-blood. That's all it is.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I think that the other thing that happens is I get a kick out of it, and I thought that the Angus was a registered trademark, which means that these people are probably selling it. But
it is registered,
and they'll call it an Angus beef, and they're selling Angus meat, and they're selling this Angus and I'm like, you know, that could still taste horrible. It has nothing to do with anything. I mean, they're just calling it Angus just for the marketing purposes of it, and they don't understand what it means.
Well, if it's truly certified Angus beef, if it is a USDA grade,
not certified Angus beef, but just Angus beef.
Well, yeah, that's because people have got. Well, it's like, you know, Arby's sells Wagyu now,
right? And that's, I think Burger King was the one that had the Angus on it. Yeah, right. Yeah.
McDonald's, I think, did for a while too.
What's the best cut of meat?
Who are you talking to?
And I think that this is everybody's like, oh man, it's a tenderloin. Oh my gosh,
are you asking me personally? Or are you asking like society?
I think that I want to know if you agree with this. Is that you need to taste every single cut of meat to be able to decide what's the best cut of meat. Because like you were, and not just the type of that, whether it's choice, select, or prime, but just anything. Do you want a New York strip? Do you want a porterhouse? Do you want filet? Do you want a roast? Do you want a flank steak? What do you want? And yeah, I'd like to know. Let's talk to the butcher and find out what his favorite steak is.
Oh, dude, it's a ribeye, 100%. I mean, if you don't eat ribeye, then you are stupid. And, honestly, and I tell the first question I ask somebody, if people come in and they ask me, what is the best steak to buy? My first question is how much do you suck at cooking? Because if you're a crappy cook, buy a ribeye. It is so hard to mess up a ribeye. It's insane. Oh, so before we even did anything with the meat locker, I enjoy grilling and I enjoy cooking for people. Now, that's kind of my jam. And if you guys are all paying attention, if anybody even remotely listens to any of Jeff's podcasts, take this one piece right here. So
this is what we've been waiting for.
Oh yeah, this is it right here. This is the coup de grace. And so, if you're going to look like a rock star, if you're going to cook chicken, buy chicken thighs. if you're going to buy pork shoulder, especially Boston butt, and cut it into steaks. If you're going to buy beef, buy a ribeye. You can burn ever living daylights out of it, and it's still probably going to be tender and taste like something. That is the secret. Like, I'd roll in, we went on a houseboat trip. I mean, I never leave and go anywhere, but my wife, her friends had rented a houseboat for one of her down in Cumberland, and it was one of her friends' birthdays. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go for the weekend. And, you know, nothing like having all this work to do, and then you get to drive 5 hours and just stare at the wall and drink beer. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Sounds horrible.
Oh, I know, right? But I mean, I'm one of those that, like, I've got stuff to do. And so I don't want to have to drive 5 hours to just go do nothing. I can do that at home. Probably not. But so I drug a bunch of chicken thighs down. I drug some ribeyes down with me. And if you take, Lowry's makes a garlic pepper. It doesn't really have any salt in it. So I had a professor in college. He taught us that don't cook your steaks with any salt. Wait until the very end, because salt has a tendency to pull moisture out. And so if you wait to put the salt on, it won't pour the juice out while you're cooking it. And it makes it more tender and makes it juicier. And that, you know, pull it off the grill before it hits charcoal too. If anybody cooks their steaks to over medium rare, you're dumb. I'm going to tell you, I am going to sit here and say that 100% right now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
very unopinionated.
Oh, yeah, right. I have no opinion on this. Was that too forward?
No, I liked it. I think you're right.
So, but if you want, I mean, if you cook you can cook a ribeye to medium well, and it's still going to taste like something because it's got all the extra fat in it. It maintains that juiciness. And so the same thing goes with chicken thighs and pork shoulder. It's all the same type of muscle structure. You know, like in chicken, they have dark meat and they have white meat. White meat is easy to make dry. Dark meat is harder to screw up.
Yeah.
And so all that muscle is the same pattern. The pork shoulder is the same as the dark meat. The ribeye is somewhat the same. And then so is the pork shoulder. I mean, they're all that darker meat with a little fat in it.
So
use, here, Lowry's garlic pepper.
Here we go. I was waiting for the recipe.
Okay. Coat both sides. Throw it on the grill. Brown the one side. Flip it one time only. That's it. Just flip it once. And then put Lowry seasoned salt on top of it. And then when the juice starts to pool on the top of it on a ribeye, that's medium rare. Don't worry about the time because it's all about tenderness.
Wonderful advice. Wonderful advice. I just I knew a guy that would cook in
or use a meat thermometer. That's the key right there. Use a meat thermometer.
You didn't mention that, and I was wondering if temperature mattered. Mm-hmm. But I knew a guy who used to cook on what do they call it? It's not a grill. It's a big Blackstone.
A griddle?
And just take thank you. And just take a bunch of chopped up onions and throw it on there and then just leave that and corral that steak with it. And it just evens the grill out, evens the temperature out. It was really awesome. And then I just started using some St. Elmo's stuff that I got from Myers the other day. It's really good.
That's expensive.
Yeah. Is it really? I thought it was like $3 or something like that.
No way. It's not that cheap.
How much did you think it was?
It's usually like $10 or $12, $15 a bottle.
I'll look again. Maybe I just got excited and didn't pay attention.
That's a possibility. You seem pretty pumped about it.
What it costs.
I want it all.
So what's the most important part of being a butcher? You call yourself a butcher? What do you call yourself?
I call myself dumb.
What's the most important part about being dumb?
Let's go start your own plant. Makes sense. Yeah. Go in your own business. Don't do that. Yeah. You got all the money in the world and you can set your own schedule.
Yeah. Yep. And do whatever. No stress.
You guys ought to stop by and see how much hair Jeff has. That'll tell you right there how stressful it is. Or wait, maybe that's genetics. Sorry. Too soon? No.
It's a little of both. People always go, you look like you've been out in the sun. And I'm like, yeah, it's that and stress.
Let me go drink my life. I mean, no, I don't do that. No, it's... What was the question again?
What's the most important part about being a butcher?
Honesty.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately I had to do this, but I have 42 cameras in that plant.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can do in that plant without me knowing about it is go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it's because I can track everything from the carcasses all the way through the facility. And so if you think that we messed your beef up or your pork or your lamb or whatever it is, sit down at the camera with me and I'll waste your time just as much as you're going to waste mine.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's accidents that can happen, but we have a process that ensures that, we minimize that. And to this day, I'm confident that it hasn't happened.
I think I think one of the biggest issues that years and years ago, especially if you were taking your beef to somewhere that had a counter where they were selling beef, is that you had to be concerned.
They're stealing our beef.
Yeah, you're stealing our beef, or you're not getting your beef back.
Right.
They're switching it out so they could sell your good stuff, and you were getting the bad stuff, and yada 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 yada. But honesty, I mean,
I hear that all the time.
It's so
you're taking our meat.
I hate the fact that you have to tell people that you're going to be honest with them, because it's one of our core values here. And I always tell people it's like I'm going to sit there and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you the truth, which is the dumbest line I've ever heard in my life. But that just makes you a good person, not only a good business person, but a good person. Makes you a good butcher and a good person. So, how I guess there's not much else to say. What else would you have to say? Should I open this book? What else do you have to say?
I'm an open book.
What else do you have to say? What else so I want people to know. Stockyards.
I'm 5'10". I'm fat. I'm married. I'm off the market.
It's Stockyards and it's Stockyards packing plant. You go through Oxford, go right down. And now's a good time to go because all the kids are running all over the place, and it takes you an hour and a half to get through.
Oh yeah, go through Miami.
Street. Go through Miami.
Hate your life.
Get to the other side of it. But I would encourage anybody, even if you don't take beef up to you, just to come up there and buy some stuff from you. But see the facility, see the plant, see what that really happens, and get to understand. Don't just go buy beef from somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you think you got a great deal, and you think you got this great, this great side of beef or whatever you think you got.
But it depends too on what kind of beef you want.
Yeah.
And there's nothing against grass-fed, grass-finished. And if that's your jam, find somebody that's got it. If it's grass-fed, grain-finished, that's your jam, find somebody that's got it. If it's Wagyu or American Wagyu, same deal. Find somebody that's got it and get a relationship established with them and start working with them. And then tell them they need to bring their animals to the Stockyards Packing Company in Oxford, Ohio. 6365 College Corner Pike. Ohio, USA.
Hey, I just think about putting this in because I know we're recording this and
be careful.
Temple Grandin's going to be in Indian Hill, and by the time this airs, it would have been last weekend, so to speak. But I was glad to say that. But listen to you talk and sitting here catching up with you. We're both from kind of like around the same area. This brings me back to like the not to say the people I want to be, but the people. It reminds me of growing up. I think just telling the truth, cutting loose, being good at what you do, being a hard worker, all of those things remind me of who you are, and just sitting here having a conversation with you. So I just want to say thanks for coming in. I know you're so busy. Thanks for taking time out of your day to come in here and be on the show. And if there's anything else you got to say, man, now's the time to do it.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
Say thank you. Hey, this is Andy Korb here with the Stockyards packing plant up in College Corner, Oxford, Ohio. Stop and see him. Man, I'll tell you what, like I said, hey, you maybe this is a different kind of interview to have on the WB Download, where we mostly talk about building houses, but this is something that's really cool, near and dear to my heart, and I just get a kick out of talking to Andy every chance we get, and going through the different stories, and stuff that I get a kick out of, and I hope that maybe if you listen to this, you're gonna understand why I'm kind of goofy anyway. But I just want to say thank you again to Andy. You're so busy and taking time out of your day to come over here and do this interview with me. We've talked about it for a couple months now, and I'm glad we finally did it. I just want to encourage everybody that if you are getting freezer beef from a pal or somebody or through somebody, you don't know everything there is to know about that. And I also want to encourage you to take it to Stockyards, because it's so important to understand who's cutting that beef in order to make your experience better. Now, if you're used to getting stuff from the grocery store, sure, yep, you're probably gonna be like, yeah, this beef is really good, but is it? just make sure that you get it from the right place, and Andy's the guy to talk to. And if you're up that way and you're at Little Sibs weekend, or you're up there for whatever weekend at Miami University, swing to the backside there, stop in and see Andy, and he'll give you a tour, and you can buy some of that stuff he's got there in the freezer, which is really good. So thank you again, Andy, for coming over. Thank you to Stockyards for chopping our beef and doing a really good job. And don't forget, if anybody wants to some freezer beef, check us out here at Wheeling Family Farms. Don't forget, the next episode drops on this will be the second Tuesday of October already when you guys hear this next episode. Believe it or not, man, we're rolling right through fall, and I'm hoping that we're going to get my friend Brian Lapthorne back in here for that podcast, but I'm just not sure. So I'm not gonna make any promises. Don't forget to subscribe to the WB Download on your favorite podcast service. Wherever you are, don't forget to check us out on YouTube, and make sure that you like and save our episodes so you can continue to hear this stuff over and over and over again. And if you want to be part of the conversation, give me a call. Send me an email. WBDownload at WheelandBuilders.com. WB Wheeland Builders. WB Download. Don't type in Wheeland Builders. It's just WB Download at WIELANDBuilders.com. And if you want to check us out on our website, go to wheelandbuilders.com and see all the cool houses that we're getting to build. I just want to say thank you to Andy once again. I want to thank all the audience for listening. I want to thank our team over here for the last couple of weeks of busting it out on a job that we just finished up. Great big job. We built and building for a couple of years, and everybody pulled together and did a really good job. And so thank you once again to our team. And hey, everybody, we're going to catch you next time here on the WB Download.